Welcome to the Hockey Writers Maple Leafs Lounge, a weekly show from our Toronto Maple Leafs writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, prospects, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from draft day to the trade deadline, our team covers everything that happens with the blue and white. Come on in and pull up a chair. Welcome to the Maple Leafs Lounge.
Hello and welcome back to the Maple Leafs Lounge. Bit of a hiatus last week considering it was the Easter weekend, but we are back. We are ready. There's still a lot of Maple Leafs hockey talk to talk about. I am your host, Peter Baracchini, and I'm joined by my colleague over at the Hockey Writers, Matthew Zator, who, remember from Prospects Corner, major writer for the Vancouver Canucks, but he's going to be a Maple Leaf fan and writer just for today, just for the one time. Alex Hobson is on I'm going to say he's going to be day-to-day. He should be fine next week, but we just wish him the best and hope that everything is all well. So Matthew's taking over his place for today. Matt, how you doing?
Doing good. Playoffs aren't going to be a reality for the Canucks, but Maple Leafs, they're in there and, we'll see. Canadian teams, any Canadian team in the playoffs is always good. Represent Canada because there's not going to be many this year. So, three of them are going to make the playoffs. So, it's going to be fun.
At least you have the NHL draft to look forward to. And I know you've been keeping an eye on the U18s that's going on as well. Really exciting game between US and Czechia. So I was watching that before we started recording. Before we get into the show, just doing a little bit of housekeeping. As always, this episode is brought to you by morningskate.io, a daily newsletter delivered to your inbox Monday to Friday, jam-packed with the best hockey stuff on the planet, with your dose of NHL news, rumors, funnies, histories, quizzes, you name it, you will get it all. All you got to do is type in your email in the link below, and you will get the newsletter straight to your inbox. No, it's that simple. No other way around it. I don't know how to make it easier, but now that that's out of the way, let's get into the show. It was a good week for the Maple Leafs, despite, the Thursday loss. We'll get to that later on, but the recent game against the Florida Panthers, it was once again a thrilling tilt between two of the top offensive powerhouses in the league and in the Atlantic Division. 3-2 loss, goals from Mitch Marner and Justin Hall. Brandon Montour scored the game-winning goal. Alexander Barkov and Claude Giroux got the other goals for the Florida Panthers as well. Matt, you were watching the game. I was glued to it because, hey, it's a tilt that, could be, I don't want to jump ahead of myself. A matchup later on, should things go according to plan for the Maple Leafs. What were your initial thoughts for that game?
Well, like you said, two powerhouses going up against each other, two of the better offenses in the league. Florida's the best. It's not really a surprise that they came back. I mean, they were down 2-0 in the first period there. Maple Leafs got the jump on them for a bit, but they've shown all year, Panthers just seem to come back and they just find ways to win. Why they have so many points and so many wins this year. So, you can't let off the gas with them, and it didn't seem like the Maple Leafs did. I mean, they had a good game, hard on them all game. I mean, even Andrew Burnett said after the game that, Maple Leafs were the better team and that they just found a way to win. And that's what the thing is. A lot of winning teams, that's what they do. I mean, they just find ways, even if they're not playing the best, they still find a way to win. But Bobrovsky wasn't very solid in the first few minutes of the game. But, teams just find a way. And that's what the Panthers do. And, Maple Leafs got a point, played a really good game. And I think they can come away from this game saying, we had a good game bouncing back from that Lightning loss, which was really bad. So we'll talk about that a little later. But overall, I think the Maple Leafs had a good game. I mean, it's just, you go against a team that just able to get the bounces, and they have so many good players. It's hard to shut them down. I mean, Giroux is a new guy and he's got 3 points. And I don't know, he plays in the top 9, but they got a guy like Sam Reinhart on the third line that has 70 or so points. So they have a pretty good team. So I think most teams lose to them, but it was a good game, I think, overall.
Yeah, looking at the underlying numbers at Natural Stat Trick, the Maple Leafs had the advantage in the shot attempt department. They had the advantage in the scoring chances for and high danger chances for. And the comeback cats, as I believe that's what they're calling them at this point. And even Keefe lauded the Maple Leafs performance and the great bounce back effort after the 8-1 thrashing to the Lightning. And, this was what we wanted to see. We wanted to see them perform well. And even when things got a little bit dicey and Florida clawed their way back, Toronto bounced back with a decent third period. And, the fact that they were able to get a point and the fact that in 3 games against the Lightning, the Panthers, they haven't lost in regulation.
Yeah.
And this is after they blew that 5-1, 5-2 lead, losing 7-6 in overtime last time. They were able to get a point, and that's a really good sign. Obviously, we'd like to see better consistency on the defensive side of things because that did play a factor in those 2 goals against. But, you can't be too mad. And even so, I think the glaring stat line was, and this is going to tie into our next point, Michael Bunting was injured on the play. Keefe said, he's going to be out for some time. We initially thought that it was a puck to the face. We thought that, okay, maybe getting some dental work, stitches, probably taking some time off to regroup. Maybe they kept him out as a precaution, but he did fall down awkwardly on his leg at one point. He was able to get off at his own accord. Seemed to sort of like stretch his leg out and try and kick something back into place. It was on his right leg, but he is out for some time. And whether that is day to day, whether that is week to week, we don't know. But obviously, we're thinking worst case scenario for Michael Bunting. Jonas Siegel tweeted out the line of Nylander, Matthews, and Marner logged over 8.5 minutes together, 19-3 shot attempts for, 9-1 shots for, and 97 expected goals for. That is just absolutely insane. But with Michael Bunting being on the shelf for insert length of time, is this a cause for concern from the Maple Leafs? Because considering the impact that he's had on the top line this season, leading the rookies in points, being a fantastic goal scorer, setting up or being a key setup player for Matthews and Marner?
Oh, it's a huge loss. I mean, Bunting's he's in the running for the Calder for a reason. You lose a guy like that, it's going to affect you. But the thing is, the Maple Leafs have so much depth. I think this year, Mikheyev's got, I believe he has 20 goals now or is closing in on that. He's had a great season after coming back from injury. But, I mean, you can't slice it anyway. I mean, Bunting's an important player on the team. He plays on the top line. I know they can insert guys. Like you said, that line was really good when he's not on it. But, I mean, you can't – he's got so many points and he's done so much for the Leafs this year. He's going to be missed, and hopefully he's not out for a long period of time. He can come back in the playoffs, maybe doing hopefully it's a precautionary thing. It's not something that, a lot of teams do that, especially when they've clinched a playoff spot. They're like, well, they'll be out for some time, but does that mean, is it a serious injury, or is it just, we want to keep him out to make sure that it's not going to become a serious injury? So, I mean, it's hard to gauge injuries at this point of the year. But if he's out for a long period, it's going to hurt them, especially if you go against a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have a ton of depth in their lineup. So it's going to be interesting to see when he comes back. But yeah, it's going to be a loss until he does.
Yeah, like you said, leading the Toronto, or not just the Toronto Maple Leafs, but leading the rookies in scoring throughout the whole entire league. I mean, that's absolutely phenomenal. And everyone's going to say his age. Yeah, well, you know what? It's the rule. He's still eligible. You don't like it, take it up with the NHL. 63 points in 79 games, 23 goals, tied with tied with second with Lucas Raymond, one behind Tanner Jeannot, who is leading all rookies in goals. And, there's the potential of call-ups, there's a possibility that, there are 2 names specifically that they can look to bring up. Alex Steeves is having a fantastic rookie season, 45 points in 54 games with the Marlies. And Nick Robertson, who, missed a majority of the season, came back, played well, got some time up with the Maple Leafs. He's probably an option that they're probably looking at to insert into a top 6 role. But then again, it's hard to replace the kind of impact that Bunting has. I mean, you could try and get by with a few games with the role that you can play with Alex Steeves or Nick Robertson, or even throwing up Mikheyev under that top line, Pierre Engvall, Alex Kerfoot. Again, it doesn't matter who, but they have options. It's just a matter of, can the performance be there or match that of Michael Bunting? Moving on to our next point. Obviously, the Maple Leafs are in the running for, the Stanley Cup. They clinched their spot. They're second in the division of the Atlantic. But there is a but. There are still question marks surrounding this team. We're going to play a little game here. It's good. This is going to be, I'm going to start off with one question first. The Maple Leafs will win the Stanley Cup. And again, we're just, playing hypothetical here, hypotheticals. Let's see where things go. But if the Maple Leafs go far in the playoffs, they will win the Stanley Cup because of what? Matthew, your take.
Auston Matthews. I mean, if he continues the scoring that he's on, he's got 58 goals now. If he continues that in the playoffs, you can see what a guy can do if he gets hot like that. Kucherov, Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, he had so many points in the playoffs, and it was a reason they won. And you take away his goals and points. Yeah, their third line was really good too, but you take away him, I don't think they win. So, if Auston Matthews continues that, Mitch Marner continues his goal scoring and assists, because he's almost got 100 points on the season. I believe, he has 100 points now or something like that.
Four away.
He's close. So he's close to 100 points. If he continues that run, he's got over 30 goals the first time in his career. He's starting to become a scoring threat. He scored yesterday as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if that top line with Matthews, Marner continues scoring, I think they have a big chance of winning the Cup. Plus, their goaltending and defense have to hold up as well, which we're going to talk about the defense after this. But those three factors, that happens, I think they do win because they can match up against any other team if that happens.
You literally explained or went into detail about two of the main factors that I talked about in a recent post that I did on 3 keys to success: defense and, goaltending. Obviously, you want Jack Campbell to provide this goaltending that he's been able to do recently, and he's getting back to that form where he was at the beginning of the season, before the All-Star game, before that little dry spell that he's had, before the injury, his rib injury that, impacted his play. If he's able to provide this type of goaltending in the playoffs, they are in a good spot. But for me, the big key is the penalty kill. And not because of them, it's been bad. It's been really great for them this season. And they were I believe they're either first or still tied for first with the amount of shorthanded goals for. Their ability to smother the offense, create turnovers, and quickly transition with the speed of Mitch Marner, Kerfoot, Mikheyev, Engvall, David Kampf, Andre Kasha when he was available. They got so much depth and so many options, and even Colin Blackwell right now with his ability to, turn on the jets when he can. The fact that, everyone is so worried about the power play, well, teams need to worry about the Maple Leafs penalty kill, because this is a really, really big threat with the amount of chances, odd man rushes, and goals that they could score in that situation. Now, we explained why they will win the Cup. Well, now we're going to flip over to why they won't win the Cup. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a very big one. But Matt, what are you thinking?
Well, I mean, we mentioned the goaltending before. Jack Campbell was ridiculously good last playoffs. I mean, his goals against average and save percentage were off. I mean, you can't blame him why they didn't win that first round. So if they won't win the Cup if their scoring gets shut down. I mean, it seems to happen in the last bunch of years where they haven't got out of the first round because all of a sudden Matthews can't score. All of a sudden Marner can't put up points. Their depth all of a sudden disappears. So, I mean, it wasn't the goaltending's problem last time. It was their goal scoring. All of a sudden, all their stars weren't there. And it's the same story with the Edmonton Oilers again. I mean, I think they have a lot of parallels of why haven't had playoff success, because their stars just completely get shut down after having such good seasons. And, Matthews, again, 58 goals this year. And last year he was on pace for a crazy amount of goals too, yet he couldn't do much in the playoffs. So I think that's a big key. And this is just the flip side. If they don't score and do that, then, they're in big trouble.
That is definitely big. We saw how much of heat that both Matthews and Marner, especially Marner, got last season, considering the fact that, and even at the beginning of the season when he was on that, mini cold streak, and then he was able to turn it up and amp it up, especially in the second half. So hopefully that this hot second half of the season could bode well for both Matthews and Marner. Jumping into a little bit of a recap before we jump into the second half of the show. Once again, this show is brought to you by morningskate.io, a morning newsletter delivered Monday to Friday into your inbox, jam-packed with the best hockey news, rumors, histories, funnies, etc. You name it, into your inbox from the great writing staff over at the Hockey Writers. They do a fantastic job. All you got to do is insert your email in the link below, and you get to enjoy the fun just like the rest of us, really. Great stuff over by them. Great content. Regardless, you will not regret signing up for that. And jumping into the second half of the show, and you realize that I kind of cut off at midway through that segment, because this is where I'm going to come in and say that this is going to be the big reason why the Maple Leafs may not win or have a deep run in the playoffs. The defense. I mean, it's still a question mark, and we talked about it at the top of the show. The 8-1 thrashing to the Tampa Bay Lightning was a bit of an eye-opener. Obviously, some fans weren't looking too much into it because they had already secured the spot. We saw what happened before, previously, where the Maple Leafs thrashed the Lightning 6-2 on home ice. Lightning kind of got their revenge, but the defense still was on display with the mistakes, turnovers, poor positioning. I think that that's going to be a reason why maybe they don't make a deep run. And it's not the same. And they went out and got depth. They got Ilya Lyubushkin. They brought in Mark Giordano to try and solidify that defense, especially on both the left and right side. Jake Muzzin is dealing with injuries. You have Giordano for that reassurance. Lyubushkin at times look great, but at times he has coughed the puck up a bit. Justin Hall has still been inconsistent at times. Timothy Liljegren looked great, but then again, he's a rookie. You don't want to fall too much on him, but he has looked well regardless during his stretch, especially alongside Giordano. Matt, what do you take? Obviously, that's my take on why they may not make a deep run, because there's still that deficiency. There's still that willingness to jump into the rush, pinch and get caught on the odd man rush back, getting caught out of position. That to me is still huge. But it is one game. The Maple Leafs were on a tear since the All-Star break, playing strong against top-tier teams. Matt, is the defense still a question mark after that Tampa Bay Lightning game, or is that probably just a one-off and maybe it's one game maybe we don't look too much in because come playoff time, both teams are going to be more dialed in?
Well, I mean, you make a good point. I mean, the defense, it is a question mark. I mean, it's been for a bit. Too bad Muzzin wasn't in. I think that would really solidify that group. Hopefully he can come back. I don't know if he'll come back at all, but Lyubushkin was a good addition. He's a physical defenseman. He's also quite mobile. He's got that good first pass. He can, add to the offense as well. But like you said, he does cough the puck up, and Justin Hull has been up and down. He wasn't that good in the Lightning game. It was -3. And there are a couple plays that he turned the puck over himself and that turned into chances. So you can't do that against a team like the Lightning because they'll just pounce. And that's what they did 8-1, right? Penalty kill was a big deal in that one too. I mean, they allowed 3 power play goals to a potent. I mean, you can't take penalties against that team. They'll just roast you. So that was a big deal. I think overall, I mean, the goaltending was okay. I mean, Källgren had a few goals that I think he probably could have, should have stopped. There were a couple of deflections. I mean, the defense I don't think, challenge the Lightning too much in that game. They let them kind of have their way with them, and that's not good. So, and against a team that you're probably going to meet in the playoffs at some point, even in the first round, we'll see how everything shakes out. But that's not a good sign when you play against a team like that and you get killed. But I mean, regular season, they just clinched. It's, maybe they weren't playing as hard, who knows? But and Matthews wasn't in that game as well, just to say that as well too. So a little different factors. I think it is a question mark going in, but I don't think it's as big a deal as everyone kind of puts it out. I think they're a much better defensive team than last year with Giordano and Lyubushkin in there, especially Giordano. He's such a veteran presence, and he'll be able to settle everyone down once the playoffs go. He knows what to do. And I think that's going to be a big factor going in.
Yeah, not having Auston Matthews in games against the New York Islanders and Philadelphia Flyers is a big, it's a big sticking point, considering that, Matthews wasn't there against the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Tampa Bay Lightning are a more lethal team. When Matthews is back against the Florida Panthers, obviously he was dominating. Obviously he didn't get a goal, but the shots, the generation, and the fact that they were able to hem in Alexander Barkov quite a bit was absolutely phenomenal too. So there's that factor going for them. Maybe that, having that scoring touch would have played a factor against the Lightning. His two-way game coming back on the back check would have made a difference, just like it did against the Panthers. Then again, the Islanders and Flyers are two different teams compared to where the Lightning are at right now. So you're bound to have that, bad game, but at the same time, the Maple Leafs have had bad games like that all season, especially you don't want to have that during the playoffs. So I could understand where emotions are a little teetering on edge, but at the same time, this Maple Leafs group is different with a different mentality. So they have that going forward. Kind of tying into that, they had that 8-1 loss. They came over, really should have probably won that game against the Florida Panthers. I mean, it could have gone either way for both teams. They both made an impact, but they were able to overcome and have a strong performance after a rough outing. Is this team able to do that consistently, especially now in the playoffs where maybe you do lose a 4-1 game, 5-1, 5-2, and then overcoming that and have a really strong performance and block that game out and focus going forward? Are they able to do that in the playoffs this season?
Well, they've shown it in the regular season, so that's a good sign. Playing against the Panthers right after that thrashing against the Lightning, and they looked really good. That's two tough teams. You could have kind of looked, if they didn't bounce back and got thrashed by the Panthers next, that wouldn't be very good, because you got two top teams in the league and they're showing you up, and that's not a good look. But that didn't happen. They had a really good game. Like I said before, they had a really good game against the Panthers. They could have won that game easily. But Panthers again just found that way, and it could have gone either way. They could have won in overtime, and we wouldn't be talking about this. But I think they showed that resilience and bounced back again. Auston Matthews coming back in the lineup, a huge boost. Had 7 shots on goal, played over 20 minutes again. Didn't score, but having a bunch of chances and being that dangerous shooter that he is, it puts that boost. And the team, I think, did a really good bounce back game. If they can do that in the playoffs, and I think if they would have played the Lightning the game right after that, if that was a playoff series, I think they would have had a really strong showing again. So, they've shown that throughout the season, I think, from what I've seen. So it's a good sign. If they can do that in the playoffs, I think they do go far. And because that's huge. You can't string, because again, you lose 4 times, you're out. You got to bounce back at some point, or your playoffs are going to be really short.
Yeah, and they've shown to play well against the top teams, especially in those 3 straight games against the Panthers, Lightning, and Bruins, where they won 3 straight, and I believe they scored 5+ goals in each game. So they can bounce back. They can keep up. It's just a matter of, and this is kind of a big thing too, having that mental aspect, overcoming the obstacles, especially with their past failures. That's going to be very key for them going forward. If they're able to block it out, not necessarily block it out, but put it behind them, push forward and focus what lies ahead. Again, this team can go far. They have the skill set. It's more so having that mental aspect and overcoming the past to find that success. And we know how much pain that they have dealt with, and that Leafs fans have seen quite a bit in the past. We thought last year was going to be their year. Who knows? Maybe this year they're going to be underdogs and they run with it and they go far. Who knows? We'll see what happens in that regard. And as we also alluded to early on in the show, with Matthews coming back from an injury, this was his first game since he missed 3 games against the after dealing with something after the Ottawa Senators game. We don't know specifically what he was dealing with. Throughout the week, we've been speculating. Everyone was saying, oh, don't be surprised if it's his wrist. Well, guess what? He was at practice. He was shooting. The wrist was fine. Had to be something else. We don't know what that was. Probably lower body, probably something with his leg, ankle, foot. I don't know. The Maple Leafs are keeping that very, very secret from everyone else. But, given that injury, given that, he may or may not play against the Washington Capitals on the day that we're recording, we'll see what happens. The fact that, everyone was comparing this to, let him play, let him get to 60, 65 goals, let him, the injury is nothing, let him play, whatever. Matt, was it the right decision to keep Auston Matthews out, even though that he is on the cusp of history? And at that point, a week ago, was looking to break Ovi's record of 65 goals in a season?
I think it is. It's the right decision. I mean, records are great, goals are great in the regular season, but I'm sure Auston Matthews will tell you the same thing. He'd rather have a Stanley Cup ring than 60 goals. So, you keep him out, you have him healthy for the playoffs. You don't want this lingering injury to kind of make him not effective in the playoffs. And you need him to be scoring these goals in the postseason, not getting 60 in the regular season, because I'm sure he'll tell you, at the end of the season, he scores 60, doesn't go in the playoffs. He'll say, who cares? I mean, it doesn't matter about 60. JT Miller at the Canucks said the same thing. They were talking about him getting 100 points. Like, I don't care if we don't make the playoffs. So it's a big thing. Yes, these milestones are great. I mean, we love seeing it and they love getting them. You see how excited these guys get when they get them, but they're more excited if they win a Stanley Cup. So the same thing with the team. You keep your best player healthy. If he has to sit out a few games and load management that they were mentioning yesterday, it's the right decision. Get him ready, get him healthy completely for the playoffs, and let him go, because you're going to need him to be scoring goals and not dealing with an injury.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I do think that it was the right move. Given the fact that, we thought he was going to be a little bit rusty, but he came out against the Panthers and absolutely dominated. So if they plan on resting him on back-to-back nights, so be it. But my big thing is this. Again, Maple Leafs Twitter was all doom and gloom about Matthews being injured. Oh, here we go. Let him play. Let him get to 60. And I said this before, especially on our podcast, 6 and the 6. If the Maple Leafs played Auston Matthews throughout this stretch at 80%, he gets to 60 goals, 65, whatever, and then isn't 100%, even more so, like worse than 80% in the playoffs, everyone is going to be complaining that he was dealing with an injury. Why didn't you rest him when you were supposed to and everything like that? Well, guess what? They rested him now. Make sure he's 120% ready for when the goals and games do matter most. He's going to be at his best. Yeah, he's going to be at 120%. And we've seen him take everything to a new level. Like every time we see him elevate his game, we thought this is peak. No, this is a chance for him to reach up to his new heights, new peak, new level, to get back to that goal, or not get back to that goal scoring dominance, but to be a consistent factor, especially in the playoffs, where maybe last year everyone was saying, choke artist kind of thing, or whatever. Yeah. Well, you know what? The Maple Leafs did right. They kept him out. They took the extra precaution, because you know what? These last 4 or 5 games, or last 3 games, do matter in terms of seeding, but what matters most is, overcoming everything in the playoffs. And that, to me, they did everything right, and they acted accordingly. I mean, if you're still complaining about that, then I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
And that does it that basically wraps up this episode of Maple Leafs Lounge. Once again, thank you for joining us. And this episode was brought to you by morningskate.io. Once again, if you didn't like it the second time, I'm going to say it the third time. So you can, sign up for the newsletter brought to you by the hockey writers and our amazing staff that gives you the latest news, rumors, histories, funnies, quizzes, you name it, everything. All you got to do is drop your email in the link below, and you will get the newsletter to your inbox every single morning, once again, by the fantastic writing crew over at the Hockey Writers. Once again, that's it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to leave a like or a comment below. Leave a like or be sure to like the video. Leave a comment or question below. We love to interact with you guys. For Matthew Zator, I'm Peter Baracchini, and we will see you next week on the Maple Leafs Lounge.